I served the Huo father and son for 9 years. A glass of warm milk every night before bed, giving my whole heart, working like a beast of burden. And what did I get in return? He smashed my cup, reeking of his first love's perfume. My own son followed his father and poured out my milk, then complained that I was boring and rigid. So my 9 years of youth were spent raising 2 ungrateful ingrates. If anyone wants this marriage, they can have it. If anyone wants to be this kind of mother, they can take it. I'm done serving them. From now on, I'm racing cars, traveling the world, and living as myself. As for that father and son who will regret it to the bone, too late. I was groomed by the Huo family from childhood to be their future daughter-in-law. At 20 I married Huo Qing. At 24 I gave birth to Huo Yushi. Huo Yushi takes after Huo Qing. Quiet, withdrawn, not close to me. Every night in the past I would bring them a glass of warm milk before bed. But that night Huo Qing knocked the cup over, and Huo Yushi secretly poured his milk away. I suddenly felt tired. The moment I handed Huo Qing the divorce agreement, he frowned displeased and asked, "All this over something so small?" "Yes, just over something so small." "What about the child? What are you planning to do about Huo Yushi?" Huo Qing returned to his usual impassive, businesslike tone. I sat across from him like a guest at a negotiation table, and said calmly, "I will give up custody. The house in the eastern suburbs will also be transferred to his name. Consider it compensation for child support. After all, the child's surname is Huo. Compared to staying with me, he and Huo Qing look more like a real family." Huo Qing lowered his gaze to look at me. His eyes were faint and unreadable, as if he didn't understand what I was making a fuss about. "Lin Miao." He softened his tone. "If you can't get over what happened with that glass of milk, I'll apologize. You know I was drunk last night. I didn't mean to treat you like that," he explained patiently, still convinced it was all about the milk. Huo Qing came home very late from social engagements last night. I waited for him half the night, woken by the cold air he brought in when he opened the door. I climbed up from the sofa, saw him rubbing his forehead in discomfort while taking off his coat, and immediately went to the kitchen to bring him the milk I had kept warm for a long time. In the past our marriage wasn't particularly loving, but at least we kept things presentable. Yet last night I asked one extra question. "Who did you see tonight? The perfume on you smells familiar." Huo Qing suddenly let go of the milk. I didn't react in time. The glass slipped from our touching fingers, and shattered the silence under the warm lights. Huo Qing's expression turned cold, his entire presence sharp with irritation. He looked at me with a frosty face and warned, "Lin Miao, you crossed a line. From now on you don't need to wait up for me, and you don't need to prepare milk for me anymore." And my son Huo Yushi, after seeing his father's reaction, also quietly poured his milk away. When I discovered it, he stood at the doorway and apologized without emotion. "Sorry Mom, Dad isn't drinking it, so I don't want to either." In their eyes, this was probably a trivial matter, something I shouldn't have made such a big deal out of. I didn't explain further. I signed the papers, entrusted a lawyer, and chose to end my marriage with Huo Qing. Huo Qing spoke calmly about asset division. I barely listened and didn't really care. I went back to the room to pack my things. He looked me over and said, "Lin Miao, the procedures will take time. You don't have to rush to move out. You can keep this house." I looked at this man who was still steady and indifferent, and replied calmly with words he once said to me, "It's better to handle things cleanly, so there won't be lingering problems." Huo Qing said nothing more. I never thought packing would feel so overwhelming. The house was filled with trivial things, every detail arranged by my own hands. I scanned the room, then decided to keep it simple, dragging my suitcase toward the door. Huo Qing stopped me. "Where are you going?" "Your parents' place. I'll have the driver take you." "No need." I refused. Told him to have the housekeeper pack up my belongings tomorrow. I won't deal with it myself. After all, their family doesn't lack an extra pair of hands. As I stepped out the door, I thought for a moment, then turned back and spoke to Huo Yushi, who stood behind Huo Qing expressionless. "I won't pick you up from kindergarten anymore, but remember not to go with strangers. Consider it my final closure for myself." Then I turned and left, without looking back at the child, who once cried through weaning, whom I held in my arms night after night, patiently coaxing to sleep. I bought a ticket out of North City, randomly picked a southern city. From the age of 14, when I was told I would one day marry into the Huo family, my freedom and choices were restricted. After marrying Huo Qing, aside from necessary events, he never suggested taking me out. The most common routine was me waiting every night for the father and son to come home, and bringing them warm milk before bed. People in our circle said Mrs. Huo raised me well, a wife tailored perfectly for Huo Qing, worthy of his status, capable of taking care of his life. The only flaw was, too perfect. perfect to the point of being boring and rigid. I once heard Huo Qing's friends teasing him. Young Master Huo, what does it feel like to live like an old married couple at such a young age? Your wife is really dull. Her smile looks fake. Want us to introduce you to someone more interesting? Just the other day young Master Liang met a funny girl. Really entertaining. Just like Xu Wei back then. Interested? Xu Wei. Huo Qing's first love. Back then Mrs. Huo opposed their relationship. Huo Qing resisted fiercely. Later no one knew what happened. They broke up. Xu Wei went to the US. After that, when I was 20, Huo Qing suddenly accepted the family arrangement and proposed to me of his own accord. 4 years later, I gave birth to Huo Yushi. Oh right, I remember now. The familiar perfume I smelled that night was the one Xu Wei used to love, a custom gardenia scent. After settling down in South City, I wandered many places. The misty rain of Jiangnan, the hazy alleys, every sight delighted me. On the morning of the third day, I unexpectedly received a call from Huo Qing. He sounded like he had just woken up, his voice low and hoarse. Lin Miao, where did you put the ruby cufflinks you bought me at last year's auction? I paused. In the walk-in closet, second cabinet, second drawer, then asked, what occasion? Huo Qing said, a mall opening ceremony. I said, the matching suit is in the second row fourth from the left. He still seemed half asleep. I heard him rummaging through things, along with faint complaints. I listened for a while and asked, did you find them? The other end went quiet, as if he finally realized something. Found them. Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. I replied, I know, then added, have the housekeeper reorganize the place for you. If you can't find something again, ask them. From now on, don't call me anymore. Huo Qing was silent for a moment, then said, okay. After hanging up, I blocked his number and fell back asleep. But this sleep was restless. I dreamed many strange fragmented dreams. 14 laughing with classmates on campus. 15 a sunny day meeting Huo Qing for the first time. 16 sneaking out to race cars. Being dragged back by my father and having my leg broken. And more. Another shrill ringtone. I jolted awake from the dream. Irritably grabbed my phone. An unfamiliar number. I answered. Hello, is this Huo Yushi's mother? I'm his kindergarten teacher. Today we're holding a robot exhibition. Huo Yushi is participating, but he didn't bring his project. He said you prepared it. Would it be convenient for you to bring it over? The teacher sounded warm and polite. My fingers tightened around the phone. I closed my eyes, only feeling indescribably tired. Not long ago, I was still sitting in the living room, following video blueprints frame by frame, making Huo Yushi's craft homework for him. I just left too quickly that day. The robot was still unfinished. I looked at the blazing sun outside the window, and replied softly, sorry teacher, Huo Yushi's guardianship no longer belongs to me. I won't be managing him anymore. And, is he with you right now? Ah, the teacher sounded awkward. Yes. Huo Yushi is right beside me. I sighed. Could you please turn on speaker mode? Of course. Thank you. I heard the phone shift. Then silence. I knew Huo Yushi could hear me. I spoke softly. Huo Yushi, the robot is in your room, in the toy box. You can call your dad to bring it, or ask anyone else. But from now on, I hope you don't call me anymore. I won't pick you up, and I won't help you with crafts. You know, I'm no longer your mother. After that, I apologized to the teacher again, and hung up. Saying those words, to the child I nearly gave my life to bring into the world, still hurt more than I expected. I can't remember when it started, but Huo Yushi grew more and more like Huo Qing. My marriage to Huo Qing was arranged very early. When I was 14, my grandfather and father came out of the study smiling with the Huo elders, and I was designated as the future daughter-in-law. At school many classmates envied my wealthy background. I couldn't refute it, only smile bitterly. My life was comfortable, but I had no freedom. When I failed my entrance exams, my mother grew angrier the more she thought about it, burst into my room in the middle of the night, dragged me up and slapped me across the face. In high school I rebelled and fell in early love. My father completed the other slap, warning me that if I refused to marry into the Huo family, I would be married off to businessmen nearly 20 years older. The first time I met Huo Qing, I was 15, arranged by both families. He was different then, a boy who loved to smile, emotions written plainly on his face. I didn't have a deep impression, only remember the white shirt under a blue sky, and a pair of expressive eyes. Later I heard he fought with his family over his first love. I admired and envied him. At least he dared to resist. He had the right to refuse. But not long after, Mrs. Huo visited my home, with a proper apologetic smile, holding my mother's hand, reassuring her. Don't worry, Huo Qing's matter has been resolved. I hid by the doorway listening, feeling deeply disappointed, thinking, of course. After that, my family began arranging frequent meetings between me and Huo Qing. At first he resisted, had no good attitude toward me. Later he gradually accepted it, occasionally speaking a few words to me, and I watched him change from a prickly boy into a silent, reserved man, all his emotions withdrawn. The custom gardenia scent on him also faded into the air with time, until the year I turned 20, and Huo Qing was 24. On our way to a gala in City C, we encountered a landslide, and were trapped in the car. Huo Qing and I were buried together for a day and a night. When rescue finally found us, my last memory was his arms shielding me, pierced through by the crushed car, a bloody mess. After I woke up, he proposed to me, in front of both our families, asking, "Lin Miao, will you be my wife?" I looked at his arm wrapped in white bandages, remembered how he shouted my name in the car, telling me, "Lin Miao, don't fall asleep. If you sleep now, you'll truly lose your freedom." Driven by impulse, I placed my hand in his, ignoring the calm, empty look in his lowered eyes, as if he were simply completing a necessary ritual. And so, we got married. 4 years later, as everyone wished, we had a child. From the moment Huo Yushi was born, he was showered with affection from both families. Madame Huo believed he needed the same elite upbringing as Huo Qing, so he poured out that glass of milk, just like his father, apologizing to me with the most innocent face, while doing what he believed was only natural. I don't know what that father and son were really thinking. Less than a week later, I received another call from Huo Qing, from a different number, because I had blocked him. Dragging things out like this was not something Huo Qing would normally do. After the call connected, there was a few seconds of silence. Just as I was feeling confused and about to hang up, Huo Qing's voice came through. "Lin Miao." He called my name. "Your parents said you didn't go home. Where did you go? Was it South City?" He checked on me. I knew he had that ability, but there was an indescribable anger rising in my chest. In our 9-year marriage, he was cold, he was distant. We lived under the same roof like passing strangers. Now barely half a month had passed, and the number of calls he made to me exceeded everything from the past year combined. Before, when I texted him, "Are you coming home for dinner tonight? Are you in a meeting? Does your stomach hurt? Do you want me to make some porridge and bring it over?" At most, he replied with a single word, "Okay." The rest was just a screen full of green bubbles from me. And now, he was acting as if nothing had happened, asking me hoarsely over the phone, "Lin Miao, I had business drinks tonight. My stomach feels uncomfortable. Where did you put the medicine at home?" And Huo Yushi caught a cold from a classmate at kindergarten. He has a fever of 38 degrees, and keeps saying he feels awful. What did you usually do before, to make him feel better? I was furious. I forced myself to suppress my anger, trying not to sound like a hysterical madwoman, and told him word by word, "Huo Qing, we are divorced. I am no longer your wife, and not your nanny. Whether your stomach hurts, whether you can find your medicine, has nothing to do with me. If you say the word, there are plenty of people who can buy medicine for you. The child is sick. There is no point telling me any of this. I am not a doctor, and I have never seen a father who still asks the child's mother what to do at a time like this. I don't know what you are trying to do. Maybe you're unwilling to let go. Maybe you're just used to being taken care of. But Huo Qing, I don't want to put this too harshly. We are over. Stop interfering with my life. Do you understand?" After saying all that, I hung up completely, took out the SIM card, and threw it into the trash. In today's world, everything is tied to a phone number. I never expected Huo Qing and Huo Yushi to keep calling me every few days. Naturally, I never thought Huo Qing still had feelings for me. It was just that I had taken care of them for too long, and they hadn't adjusted yet. I got a new number, withdrew some cash, and signed up as a companion member of a scientific expedition group, traveling with them to the far northwest. It was a project I had once seen online. When I mentioned it back then, Huo Qing said he didn't have time. Friends in our circle laughed and said, "That's way too cheap." Lin Miao, with young Master Huo's status, joining such a low-end tour would be embarrassing. I just smiled and said nothing. At the time, I thought it was only a fleeting thought. The Huo family would never allow me to be so willful. I never expected that now it would be this easy. When a shackle is broken, the one who was bound must struggle from the depths of the heart. On the day I departed with the expedition team, the sky was clear. We traveled by train. The entire way, the train swayed back and forth, and every time I sank into a heavy dream, I was slowly rocked awake. Dawn broke suddenly, everything hazy and unclear. The expedition followed the Qinghai-Gansu Grand Loop, starting from Xining, heading to Chaka in Qinghai, passing the Karhan Salt Lake, stopping at Greater and Lesser Kaitam and Devil City. The Mogao Caves rose from the desert. Crescent Spring lay quiet under the night sky, reaching Dunhuang, passing Jiayugan, endless stretches of colorful Danja landscapes along the way. Most of the people on the expedition team were geologists. They looked taciturn, yet could talk endlessly about a pile of soil, a blade of grass, a nameless wildflower, sometimes humorous, sometimes witty, filling the vast and sparsely populated Northwest with a powerful sense of life. I can't deny, my privileged background, and the years of grooming by the Huo family, allowed me to see many things others never would. In the past, I believed traveling like this was only meaningful with family, but now, hiking through Yaden landforms, camping in the desert, burnt lamb, a body covered in sand, and a sky full of stars brighter than I had ever seen, I knew Huo Qing would still find out where I was, but it no longer mattered. After the Northwest Loop ended, I exchanged contact information with these new friends. After resting in the city for a few days, I set off again, onto the Sichuan-Tibet route. The moment I climbed to Everest Base Camp, I had severe altitude sickness, rapid breathing, splitting headaches. I almost thought I would die on the highest mountain range in the world, but in the distance, sunlight bathed the golden peaks, and everyone on the summit was cheering. In that loud chaotic excitement, I burst into tears. People in the group scrambled, putting oxygen on me, feeding me sugary drinks, thinking I was in unbearable pain. Hey, don't cry girl, you're fine, your oxygen levels are coming back up, don't be scared, we're here, you won't die, yeah little sister, you're still young, you'll be fine, you've got a long road ahead, this is nothing. I cried so hard, until I was finally amused into laughter by a big brother's northeastern accent. With their help, I stood up from the snow, facing the glowing peaks in the distance, facing my rebirth. No matter how many shackles there are, no matter how hard the road is, I can still reach the summit on my own, can't I? After I returned, I picked up some old hobbies, extreme sports, racing, and raising a dog I truly like. Before my engagement to Huo Qing, I was actually carefree and lively. I loved everything full of vitality. Later, I didn't even have freedom, let alone passion. The dog I adopted was a mixed-breed Maltese. I named her Anin. She had soft caramel-colored fur, and big innocent eyes. When she ran, her ears flapped like a little gas canister. Dogs are easier to get along with than people. Dogs understand your needs better than people. Dogs never neglect you. They know you love them, and they love you back. And then, I saw Huo Qing again, at the entrance of my new home. I was about to take Anin out for a walk, when I opened the door, and saw Huo Qing standing by the elevator, holding onto Huo Yushi, who was staring nervously at Anin in my arms. Why are you here? I sat across from Huo Qing, and asked coldly. Huo Yushi lay at the end of the sofa, frowning as he watched Anin devour her food. Huo Qing studied me silently for a moment. Meow meow, you've lost weight. I lifted my eyelids slightly. Don't change the subject. It was our son who wanted to see you. I couldn't stop him. Huo Qing, do you remember what I said to you last time? We are divorced. Please stop disturbing my life. Is that so hard to understand? Huo Qing pressed his thin lips together. Meow meow. Yushi is still young. He can't be without a mother. I laughed, called the security office, and had the father and son escorted out. Huo Yushi refused to leave, standing stiffly in my entryway, looking at me, opening his mouth, as if he wanted to say something. I held Anin, didn't look at him, and shut the door firmly. I was afraid that if I looked again, I would soften without meaning to. He was flesh and blood. I gave birth to in an operating room, in pain so intense it tore me apart. I held him, loved him, comforted him, cherished him. The first word he ever said was Mom. When he was little, he cried at the sight of anyone, except when he was in my arms, quiet and sweet. But later, Madame Huo said I was raising him poorly, and insisted on so-called elite education. A child's growth is always shaped by what they are taught. Whoever tells him what, that is what he remembers. That is what he does. As he grew older, he no longer wanted to be close to me. He began to distance himself, treating me with the same polite detachment as Huo Qing. He would call me Mom, using formal address. Mom, can you let Dad teach me instead? Grandma said your education level isn't as high as Dad's. You can't teach me well. Mom, why are you always at home? Don't you have any hobbies? All my classmates' moms do. Mom, you're too serious. You're not like Auntie Wei Wei. She always has new and fun ideas. After I told security not to let people in casually, Huo Qing changed tactics. Sometimes, he waited alone at the community gate in the morning, sitting in the back seat of a Maybach, looking like he hadn't slept all night. When he saw me, he handed me a hot breakfast. You don't like eating in the morning. It's bad for your stomach. At least eat a little. Sometimes, he brought Huo Yushi with him, following behind me, waiting while I walked the dog. I passed by without a glance, never once looking at them. The neighbors I met while walking in, sometimes curiously asked who that striking father and son were to me. I told them honestly, an ex-husband who has someone else in his heart, and a child who prefers that woman more. They fell silent in embarrassment, then immediately took my side. Every time they saw the two of them, they warned me in advance, telling me not to go out of sight, out of mind. I smiled faintly, and told them it was fine. I stopped caring long ago. Huo Qing was always busy. There were countless matters waiting for him at the company. He couldn't stay here pestering me forever. Many times, I saw him sitting tiredly in the car, answering call after call. Maybe from the company, maybe from the Huo family. After all, he had taken Huo Yushi out for far too long. Sometimes, Huo Yushi would secretly come find me, having the driver bring him out behind Huo Qing's back, saying nothing, just following quietly behind me with small steps. I focused on walking in, giving her water, coaxing her to eat treats, and then would wag her little tail happily, letting out soft barks at me. Huo Yushi watched from the side, saying nothing, his eyes filled with anger. Children aren't as good as adults at hiding their emotions. Once, Anin ran too fast. Huo Yushi couldn't keep up, and fell anxiously onto the stone pavement. Finally unable to hold it in, he cried out loud, red-eyed and aggrieved, "Mom, it hurts." After he learned to be sensible, Huo Yushi rarely cried. Perhaps the resentment and pain had built up too much. He lay on the ground, crying himself apart while looking at me. I watched him quietly, without moving at all, until the bodyguards behind him rushed over, and picked him up. In the past, whenever Huo Yushi got sick, I would ache and worry along with him. But now, my heart was calm as still water, not a ripple left. My life now will not be affected by the appearance of the Huo father and son. After returning from my recent trip, I signed up for a racing club, planning to pick up some old passions. Unexpectedly, I made it into the selection round for a competition. Even though there was a high chance I'd be eliminated in the first round, I still prepared seriously for a long time. The race was scheduled for a week later. On the day I left, I deliberately booked a flight at dawn. Tense pre-race preparation, anticipation, and calm. On the track, the wind tore through the blazing sun. Time froze. In the friction between tires and asphalt, sweat soaked my racing suit. Urgent pursuit and tension pulling tight. When I took off my helmet, standing on the podium, cheers surged again and again from the stands. Second place. It was a result I never expected at all. And I followed the crowd as we streamed out after it ended. Huo Qing was standing in the packed throng holding Huo Yushi's hand. Huo Yushi was cradling a bouquet of flowers in his arms, as if afraid the flowers might get crushed. He dodged every passerby with careful vigilance. The moment he saw me, Huo Qing gave me a small nod. A faint smile spread in his eyes as he spoke two words. Judging by his lip movements, it was probably congratulations. Huo Yushi, meanwhile, was flushed red with excitement. He waved at me eagerly and called out in a bright voice, "Mom, you're amazing." The people around us all watched with gentle smiles. I only felt annoyed. I picked up my things and kept walking toward the exit. Huo Qing led Huo Yushi over to me. "Mio meow, I didn't know you could do this. Why didn't you ever mention it before? Mom, you were so cool just now. You have no idea how nervous I was when you passed that car in front." I acted as if I hadn't heard a word and didn't slow my steps. But Huo Qing grabbed my hand and lowered his posture, asking softly, "Mio meow, let's have dinner together tonight to celebrate, okay?" Yushi really misses you." Huo Yushi immediately looked at me with hopeful eyes, trying to press the bouquet into my hands. I pulled my hand back and avoided him. "I'm busy, I don't have time. You eat without me." Huo Qing had been careless with his work. Huo Yushi had been away from home for too long. Inevitably, Madame Huo came looking for me. I looked at the woman in front of me, who once approved of me yet remained distant from me, and felt an indescribable sense of desolation. Maybe because we were both mothers. Maybe because we were both women. Mio meow, back then I chose you because you were quiet and reserved. The kind of person suited to be a daughter-in-law of the Huo family. But now both Huo Qing and Huo Yushi won't go home because of you. How is that any different from Shu Wei back then? Miao Miao, come back. Consider it giving mom some face. And giving Huo Qing another chance. Madame Huo was never the domineering, aggressive type of wealthy matriarch. On the contrary, she always spoke gently and politely. Just like the way Huo Qing and Huo Yushi treated me. I thought that if not for her son and her grandson, she would never have lowered herself to sit in my small 2-bedroom apartment and beg me to give Huo Qing another chance. But auntie, Huo Qing doesn't love me. Our marriage has already cost me 9 wasted years. When you chose me back then, it was my family you valued, not me. Now everything has turned out exactly as all of you wished. Our 2 families are closely tied, inseparable. I gave birth to the child you wanted. Huo Yushi has grown up now, even without me. The Huo family will take good care of him. So could you give me my freedom back? Back then my father broke my leg. He threw my puppy to its death. I was timid and cowardly, too afraid to resist. Later I married Huo Qing. Their goals were achieved. And there was Huo Yushi, bound to them by blood. I no longer served any purpose. And most importantly, auntie, I don't love Huo Qing anymore. That youthful flutter of first love began when, Lin Miao, if you fall asleep, you'll never be free again. Will you marry me? Maybe I can give you freedom. But later, the boy who slayed the dragon became a dragon himself. Forgetting the promise he had made so casually. Sigh? Madame Huo let out a deep sigh and spoke to the air. Did you hear that? Huo Qing. Mom has done all she can. Beside her handbag, a phone screen lit up. Huo Qing's name was displayed, still on the call. That night, Huo Qing appeared at my door. Miao Miao, I still want to try again. I know I didn't do well before, that I neglected you. Can you give me a chance to make it up to you, to start over? I looked at him quietly and said, I think I've made myself clear enough. Huo Qing rubbed his slightly messy hair in frustration. He had always cared about his appearance. It was rare to see him this disheveled. He was wearing a steel gray suit, but with blue cufflinks. The contrast was far too jarring, a major misstep. Every outfit he used to wear had been matched by me personally. But now all I could think about was when he would finally leave. Huo Qing looked at me miserably. I do love you, Miao Miao. I just didn't cherish you before. I've never loved anyone before. I didn't know how to love. That's why I hurt you. It wasn't until you left that I realized I can't live without you. It was all my fault. Miao Miao, can you give me one more chance? And Yushi can't live without you either. He cries every day asking for his mom. No one but you can comfort him. Can you not be so resolute, for the child's sake? Oh, he says he loves me. He says he's never loved anyone and doesn't know how. Back when our families arranged for us to meet, he told me, Lin Miao, there's someone in my heart. You know that, right? At the time, he was at odds with the Huo family because of Shu Wei. Later, after we married, when I heard that Shu Wei had gotten a new boyfriend in the US, he came home drunk for the first time. The next day, Madame Huo pressured us about when we would have a child. Huo Qing sneered on the spot and told her to switch my perfume to a custom gardenia scent. And he would agree to having one. Every moment, every time. There was always someone else's shadow. And he says he's never loved anyone. I looked at him mockingly. Then what about Shu Wei? Huo Qing froze. As if a lie had finally been exposed. He lowered his eyes and said seriously. There is no Shu Wei, Miao Miao. There never was. Back then I did it on purpose because I didn't want to obey the family's arrangements. I've only ever loved you. From beginning to end, only you. Ridiculous. I once wondered if Huo Qing's neglect and emotional coldness toward me were because he resented me over the Shu Wei matter. I know what it feels like to be powerless. But I don't pity him. After Huo Yushi was born, my feelings for Huo Qing gradually faded. I just numbly, habitually did the things expected of a Huo family daughter-in-law. I placed all my hope in Huo Yushi. I looked forward to finally having someone in that house who was bound to me by blood. In those early days, Huo Yushi became my only comfort. But only 2 years later, that hope became a thorn lodged in my flesh. Huo Qing may have loved me, but compared to his pride, his dignity, and everything else, he was simply accustomed to my care and my constant presence. In our marriage, regardless of the reasons, his neglect, his emotional abuse, his belief that women should naturally sacrifice for the family, were all unchangeable facts. No one is incapable of learning how to love. No one truly doesn't understand love. Cherishing only after loss is nothing more than unwillingness to let go. And the failure to meet someone better. When you're young, loving anything is not a mistake. When you're mature, letting go of something is not wrong either. Huo Qing. Leave yourself some dignity. Huo Qing had always been a proud man. He understood what I meant. So the last time I saw him, it was still at my home. Not long ago, I traveled to Xinjiang again with a group. There was a lot of rain in summer. And I got caught in several downpours. Coupled with all the recent stress, I inevitably fell ill after coming back. When I woke from the darkness with my whole body aching, it was Huo Qing who helped me sit up. Huo Yushi was leaning by the bed, asking me worriedly in a small voice, "Mom, how are you feeling? Is there anywhere that hurts? Should Dad and I take you to the hospital?" Huo Qing placed a pillow behind me and said, "When I saw you swaying at the gate tonight, I felt something was wrong. I followed you upstairs and found you already burning up and unconscious at the door. I had someone give you a fever shot. How do you feel now? Are you still uncomfortable?" He asked softly, carefully handing me something. A glass cup, filled with a milky white liquid. A cup of warm milk. "You didn't eat much tonight. Drink some milk to warm your stomach." "Meow meow." He called my name softly. His tone familiar as he began to scold me gently. "You really can't take care of yourself alone. If it weren't for me and our son today, no one would even know you collapsed. Meow meow, come home with us, okay? Let Yushi and me take care of you together." I watched him speak these awkward words. And watched Huo Yushi nodding repeatedly in agreement by the bed. I smiled, reached out and took the glass of milk. The next second, I let go. The glass slipped from my fingers. With a crash, it shattered across the floor. White milk flowed over the tiles. I pointed at the mottled mess and said slowly, "Huo Qing, look. A broken cup can never be restored. Spilled milk can never be taken back. And besides," just minutes later, there was a sudden knock at my door. Voices crowded together outside. Huo Yushi went to open it. A group of people noisily poured in. Each of them was carrying bags and bundles, completely surrounding my bed. "Oh dear sister, how did you get sick? I told you not to get rained on that day. But they insisted on dragging you into the rainforest. Sis, are you still feeling bad? I brought you the soft candies you said you liked last time. If the medicine tastes bitter later, have one and you'll feel better right away." Everyone talked over each other until they finally noticed the two figures in the room. They hesitated and asked, "And these two are?" I saw Huo Qing and Huo Yushi both tense up instinctively. So amid the crowd, I smiled at everyone and introduced them across the room. "Not important. A friend and his son. We won't be seeing them again. They're leaving right away." After all, he was still a child. Huo Yushi immediately broke down, standing at the door wailing loudly, "I don't want to go. I want my mom." The noise made Enon bark at him a few times. The Huo family members immediately emerged from the shadows. They carried the child away and supported the staggering man out. I once crossed the river with him in the same boat. But spilled water cannot be reclaimed. And the river never rests. Extra 1. Huo Qing. When Huo Yushi was 12, he finally mustered the courage to break with Huo Qing completely. He said he wanted to go find Lin Miao. He couldn't understand why something so simple was met with every possible obstruction from Huo Qing. Huo Yushi didn't know that over the years, Huo Qing had gone to see Lin Miao. And the reason he didn't allow Huo Yushi to go was because Lin Miao had remarried and now had a very adorable little girl. Huo Qing thought his marriage with Lin Miao had been an utter failure. Lin Miao was sensitive and delicate by nature. To truly move on, she would surely need a long time. But Huo Qing never expected Lin Miao to be nothing like he imagined. She had even become someone unfamiliar to him. She smiled freely. She lived boldly. As if that was who she had always been. Huo Qing suddenly remembered the first time he met Lin Miao. The girl was silent and reserved, pulled by her mother to sit across from him. Back then, Huo Qing was tightly controlled by Madame Huo. When he heard he had been arranged into a marriage, his anger had nowhere to go. Naturally, he couldn't stand this girl 4 years younger than him, who looked dull and awkward. In those years, he fought fiercely with his family. Later, even his grandfather stepped in. With no other choice, Huo Qing reluctantly agreed to break up with Xu Wei. Xu Wei was his college classmate. She was straightforward and agreed without hesitation to help him. At the time, Huo Qing didn't know Xu Wei liked him. Later, he felt guilty. After Xu Wei returned, he had a few meals with her and discussed some cooperative projects. Huo Qing originally thought these tangible actions would make Lin Miao forgive him. At least he hadn't truly betrayed her. He always believed his mistake lay in projecting his resentment toward the Huo family's control onto Lin Miao. That was why he treated her coldly and indifferently. Until Lin Miao's heart grew cold and she could no longer endure it. Choosing divorce. It wasn't until Huo Qing saw Lin Miao's life after marriage that he realized what he had truly lost. Lin Miao married a police officer. They met during an unexpected roadside rescue she took part in. The officer's job was busy. Yet he always made time to take Lin Miao out. To see mountains. To see the sea. To search for the source of all life. Whenever there was a work arrangement or anything came up, he would tell Lin Miao as early as possible. Anything interesting or new he saw on his way home from work, he would buy it, or take photos and send them to her. They shared their lives with each other. They loved each other just the same. So not long after that, Lin Miao gave birth to a daughter. When the girl was just learning to speak, she already loved hugging that little Maltese puppy and running around outside with it. Later, when the girl grew a bit older, in kindergarten, she would bare her teeth and claws every day, bragging to the other kids. My mom is amazing. She can do crafts. She can even drive race cars. Do you want to come to my house and play? I'll introduce my mom to you. Huo Qing was like a shadowy rat, peering into someone else's family life. Sometimes he wanted to step forward and say hello to Lin Miao. He wanted to ask if she was doing well, if she was eating properly. But at the last moment, he silently withdrew his steps. After that, he never asked about Lin Miao again. One year during the Spring Festival, after finishing his social obligations, Huo Qing returned alone to an empty house. He tugged at his tie and called out uncomfortably. Miao Miao, I'm a little thirsty. He thought he would be greeted by a warm light. A cup of warm milk. But what answered him was only boundless darkness and silence. At that moment, overwhelming regret pressed down on Huo Qing until he could barely breathe. His tall figure slowly slid down from the entryway. In the darkness came his anguished sob. Extra 2. Huo Yushi. In the third year of Huo Yushi's Cold War with Huo Qing, he finally got his chance. After ditching the bodyguards, he snorted disdainfully. Is that all you've got? With a face that looked more and more like Huo Qing's, he boarded the high-speed train to South City alone. Planes were too easy for the Huo family to track. So Huo Yushi casually bought a ticket, transferred midway, and finally arrived at the neighborhood he had once visited. 10 years had passed. Huo Yushi didn't know whether Lin Miao still lived here. Looking at the peeling walls now aged by time, and the neighborhood gate that had been renovated, he nervously knocked on that door. Knock knock. Knock knock knock. With a creak, the door opened. Huo Yushi lifted his head with anticipation filling his eyes. But it was a stranger's face. Who are you looking for? My mom, Lin Miao. Don't know her. You've got the wrong place. As expected, she no longer lived here. Huo Yushi lowered his head in disappointment. After walking a distance out of the neighborhood, he subconsciously turned back, looking toward another small path leading to the park. It was paved with stone slabs. The place where he once fell badly. Lin Miao hadn't pulled him up. Huo Yushi suddenly remembered when he had just begun forming memories. He had just learned how to walk, wobbling and falling all the time. Back then, Lin Miao wouldn't pull him up either. Instead, she would gently encourage him. Xiao Yu, don't cry. Falling isn't a big deal. Our Xiao Yu can stand up on his own, right? Mom believes in you. Then he would wipe away his tears, stagger to his feet, and run toward Lin Miao, who was looking at him with eyes full of love. He would throw himself into her arms, be hugged and kissed, and hear her say, "Wow. Our Xiao Yu is amazing. Such a brave little man." In truth, Huo Yushi liked Lin Miao very much when he was little. His mother was always gentle, dependable, and patient. But later on, under the influence of his father, his grandmother, and the entire Huo family, he developed resentment toward Lin Miao as well. He felt that Lin Miao stayed home every day, had no career of her own, just a rich wife who knew how to enjoy life. He hated her controlling him, and disliked her setting boundaries for him. Because Lin Miao's views were always different from his grandmother's and his father's. But everyone in the family said that grandma and dad were the ones who were right. So after Lin Miao left, Huo Yushi always believed he had been influenced by others. That he had been too young back then, didn't understand certain things, And that was why Lin Miao abandoned even him. Huo Yushi never thought it was his own fault. Until he saw that little girl. After getting into a fight. Her face was dirty like a little calico cat. Yet she was still shouting. Are you convinced or not? Don't you ever talk about my mom again. Huo Yushi witnessed the whole thing. A few boys with foul mouths said the little girl's mom was irresponsible. Always going out to have fun or race cars. Not a decent woman at all. The girl exploded instantly. Like a firecracker that had been lit. Without a second word, she beat them up. Your moms just don't have what it takes. Always jealous of my mom. If you've got the guts. Tell your moms to win a championship too. So funny. Your own lives suck so you trash other people's families. Blah. In the end, the girl was taken away by her grandmother. The grandmother scolded her unhappily for not acting like a proper girl. Always running wild, complaining. Just like your mom. Just like when Huo Yushi was young. His grandmother would casually criticize him. Don't be like your mom. What did Huo Yushi think back then? He thought she was right. He thought grandma and dad were both better than mom. In his mind, he was a boy. He would grow up to take over his father's position. Mom didn't understand anything. Why should he listen to her? So he went along with it. He agreed. But what did the little girl say? She giggled, didn't directly blame her grandmother at all. Instead, she clung to her arm and acted cute. Grandma, don't be mad. I wanted to do it myself. Don't always talk about my mom. My mom is the best in the whole world. She even bought you a necklace specially the other day when she came back from a trip. Really? Of course. My mom likes you a lot too. Ahem, alright then. Grandma won't say it anymore. We'll listen to our precious granddaughter from now on. Suddenly, a wave of sorrow welled up in Huo Yushi. Especially when he saw Lin Miao appear and lift the little girl into her arms. A family's upbringing requires both parents to participate. Especially the role of the father. A father's attitude toward the mother determines a child's attitude toward the mother. Huo Qing never set a good example for him. And he himself never thought there was anything wrong with it. As if he had been born lacking a certain capacity for empathy. Empathy toward his own mother. Later, Huo Yushi's life followed the same path as Huo Qing's. An arranged marriage forcibly set by the Huo family. He sat across from the girl, the two of them silent. The girl was quiet, gentle, and reserved. Grandma Huo liked her very much. Huo Yushi struggled and resisted, trying countless ways. He even tried running away from home with no money at all. Only to be caught and dragged back in disgrace. He asked his father what he had done back then. Huo Qing looked at him without answering. Waved his hand, and sent him out of the study. Just as Huo Yushi could no longer resist and decided to compromise. Huo Qing suddenly stepped forward and dissolved the engagement for him. Huo Yushi didn't know what Huo Qing had done. But judging from the expressions on his grandparents' faces, they were furious beyond measure. And Huo Qing, from that day on, seemed as if all vitality had been drained from him. He aged rapidly. In less than 5 years, illness consumed his body. And he reached the end of his life. Before he died, Huo Qing held Huo Yushi's hand and touched his eyes. As if reminiscing, as if unwilling to part. Eyes were the only part of Huo Yushi that resembled Lin Miao. Huo Yushi still couldn't help but ask what he had done back then to make the Huo family change their stance. Huo Qing still didn't answer him directly. He only said, "This was the only request your mother ever made of me." The day Huo Yushi was born. Lin Miao lay weakly on the hospital bed and begged Huo Qing. Huo Qing, in the future, could you not let the child walk our path again? At the time, Huo Qing didn't take it to heart at all. He thought Lin Miao was just reluctant to part with Huo Yushi. Only later did he realize that what Lin Miao had always been pleading for was freedom, distance. A vast open world they had never possessed. The blue sky was still light and calm. Huo Qing seemed to return to that summer. Or as if he had never escaped the car buried deep in the earth. In the darkness. The girl's breath brushed against his cheek as she called his name, asking him, "Huo Qing, are you okay?" Huo Qing remembered that his arm had been pierced through by the car frame. And he had developed a high fever in the middle of the night. From hypothermia, his lips were dry, parched with thirst. In his dazed state, he seemed to dream that he had found a spring. He drank greedily, easing the pain. Only the water carried a strange metallic taste of blood. When he opened his eyes again, he saw bite marks on the girl's pale wrist. Blood not yet dried. Huo Qing looked calmly at her weakened face and called her name. "Lin Miao, don't fall asleep," he told her, If you fall asleep, you'll truly lose your freedom. And so, amid the sorrowful cries, Huo Qing's hand slowly fell limp,